I'm Tom Gentry. I'm a writer. I launched my first podcast in 2019. And for over 20 years, I've helped families struggling with addiction and related issues. I'm all about helping people reconnect with themselves and connect with others. I've spoken to men and women from many walks of life with the aim of getting to the essence of who they are. Along the way, I developed a set of questions to which even their closest friends may not know the answers. This show is my take on the Proust questionnaire. In each of these conversations, another human being offers us a small glimpse into their mind. They show us their heart, and in doing so, sometimes they touch ours. This is 20 Questions. If your life were a novel, what would be the title?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and I'm probably going to need a minute to think of that. If my life was a novel, what would the title be? I'd say Crazy, Reckless, and Dangerous.
Okay, that'll work. Where were you born?
Originally, I was born in the north of England, in a place called Carlisle, which is up in Cumbria. And then I lived up until I was 16 in a little town in the Lake District in Cumbria called Keswick, which is a beautiful place. And I lived there until I was 16, and that's the age I joined the British Army.
Wow. And where's the place you call home?
I call home Kent, in the southeast of England. So I have a girlfriend and family down in Kent, and I currently work in North Yorkshire. So there's quite a commute, and in my line of work, you go wherever the army send you. So Monday to Friday, I work in North Yorkshire, and then on a Thursday or a Friday, I travel 5 hours south for the weekend.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Initially, when I grew up, I wanted to be a police officer. There was Keswick's quite a small town in the Lake District, and there was a police officer that got involved with a lot of community stuff, and he was quite an inspiring character, and he made me want to become a police officer. And then, as you grow up and you get into your teens and you get a little bit naughty and maybe get into a little bit of trouble with the police, that changes,
loses its luster.
Yeah, and not just loses its luster, but after getting into a little bit of trouble with the police, that option possibly wasn't available. So then, the next best thing was the army.
And what is your profession in the army? What do you do?
So I'm an engineer. I spent a long time as a soldier. Originally, I actually joined into the artillery. So, I was in the parachute artillery. I used to jump out of planes and fire big guns. When I say big guns, ones that go 17 kilometers and fire 105 millimeter shells, artillery shells. I then had a short break, and I went back to the army after a couple of years in Civilian Street, and I joined the Royal Engineers. So I retrained as an engineer, specifically a plant operator mechanic. Operating all the big plant machinery, and as well as doing combat engineering. So, as a combat engineer, you specialize in blowing things up. You're the Army's demolition experts. You build bridges, you blow bridges up, you clear minefields. As an engineer, it's quite a wide array of tasks that you're set, and you have the combat engineering side, and then the structural side as well. So, in a wartime situation, the engineers would be the first ones in, because they'd be in, clearing the minefields for the infantry to get across, building the bridges for the infantry to get across the rivers. So we're the first ones in, but then, once the operation finishes and the warfighting finishes, we're the last ones out, because we're the ones who stay back to build, rebuild the infrastructure. But nowadays, I drive a desk. I did my time as a soldier, got to Warrant Officer Class 1, which is as high as you can go as a soldier in the British Army. They then offered me a commission to become an officer, so I'm now a captain, and I'm the logistics officer. So, yeah, unfortunately, the majority of my time is spent behind the desk, but I still get out and dive, because I specialised in underwater engineering about 20 years ago. So we're the equivalent for the Army. We're the equivalent of a civilian commercial diver. So we do any underwater engineering task, concrete in, explosives, hydraulic tools, chainsaws, jackhammers, that type of stuff.
Interesting. So what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, the only other profession I'd really like to attempt is one that I'm already doing, because I may be full-time in the Army, but I'm also a professional magician. And I run my magic business alongside my Army career. So I specialise on that side of house. I specialise in close-up magic, but I also do stage magic, hypnosis. And it's a big passion of mine. I've loved doing magic for many, many years, and I kind of juggle that around my Army career.
So tell me about close-up magic. What does that mean exactly?
So there's different genres of magic, and close-up magic is, what you would get if you're at a corporate function or a wedding, and people come around the tables and they're doing magic, right to your face, close up. Card tricks, coin magic. There's lots of different types of props you could use, but anything that's, you're right next to the magician and things are happening right in front of you. Sometimes you'll see things on TV that is TV magic. It can only be done on TV. Mm-hmm. But close-up magic is the stuff that happens right in front of your very eyes, and sometimes in your hands. And for me, I think it's more powerful because it's happening, right in front of you, and it leads people, to not. They know it's not a camera trick. They know it's
right.
It's right there in front of your face.
Okay, what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Now, being in the military, there's lots of quotes that I like, but my favorite one is, I'm trying to remember who it was by. I think it might have been Churchill, and it goes something along the lines of, people sleep peaceably in their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. And I think I'm right in saying it was Churchill that it might have been George Orwell, actually. I can't quite remember. I'll have to Google it afterwards. Tom.
Sounds like something either of them might have said, but I would bet Churchill. Okay. What's your preferred form of creative expression?
Well, that's an easy question. That would have to be magic.
Anything else? Do you write or any artistic endeavor that you take part in?
Not really, no.
But performance. So performance,
yeah,
I guess.
Performing. I do a little bit of acting. I've played the dame in pantomime. I don't know if you have pantomimes the same as we do over in the States, but we have pantomimes in the UK, usually throughout Christmas. and it's like a funny. Do you have them over there?
Well, they exist, but it's probably not nearly as common. Yeah. I think I
Yeah,
hear
so
more jokes about pantomimes than I see pantomimes.
yeah, so it's like they'll take a well-known kid's story usually, and they'll put that into a stage show, but with a lot of comedy in there, and the jokes are kind of innuendo that would, it's family friendly, but the jokes
Right.
are kind of innuendo that would go over the kids' heads. And I played the pantomime dame. I was Red Riding Hood's granny.
Oh, wow. Pete's claim to fame. Red Riding Hood's
Yeah, I won't show you the photos.
Okay,
Tom.
please.
I
Yeah.
don't make a very good looking woman.
Okay. I'm not shocked. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, so I have two that are on par that fight for my top slot, and I can never separate them. And that is the original Top Gun with Tom Cruise and Men of Honor, Cuba Gooding Jr. with the American military diving, which is based on a true story with the life of Carl Brashear, a Navy chief diver who lost his leg.
Okay. Do you have a favorite song?
Yes, I do actually. So, the Kings of Leon, "Sex on Fire," and the reason that song is my favourite is, oh Christ!
How could you not like a song called "Sex on Fire"?
Yeah, I mean, I love the band Kings of Leon, and their first album was is my favourite. But my late wife surprised me and bought me tickets to go and see the Kings of Leon at the O2 in London just before she died. So that was the last band that we ever got to see. So that song is my favourite, and that's why.
I'm sorry for your loss. Okay. How about a favorite work of art?
I'm not massively into art.
What about a favorite book? Favorite book?
Oh, favorite book. Now, yeah. So I have a lot of magic books. I like reading autobiographies and of course magic books. And I'm stood looking at my bookshelf as you ask that question, and it's full of magic books. But there's one or two actually that come in a set that's quite special to me. It's an American magician. He's passed away now. God rest his soul. He passed away last year. Famous magician over there called Johnny Thompson.
I've heard you talk about him before, but I don't know who it is.
Used to go by the name of the great Tomsini or Tomsoni.
Okay.
And he had an act in Vegas for many, many years with his wife. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago, obviously before he passed away. And on my bookshelf there, I've got The Magic of Johnny Thompson, volumes 1 and 2 in a nice display box, and they're both signed by Johnny. So yeah, they're my favourite books.
Okay, who do you admire most?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Very difficult question. Because it's not always someone famous that you admire most, and I suppose you admire different people at different times throughout your life. Mm-hmm. And I'd actually say it's got to be a friend of mine who lost both legs and his right arm in an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan. So he's a triple amputee. Once he came round and had prosthetics fitted, he then went on to cycle in the Invictus Games on a one-handed recumbent bike. He then went on to cycle professionally for Team Sky. And unfortunately, while he was training out in believe it was somewhere in Spain on one of the sort of Spanish islands. He had an accident where he went head on with a lorry, and has had multiple operations since that. And obviously, this was after he'd lost 3 limbs, and yet he's still knock after knock, he still manages to pick himself up and carry on. And it's incredible what that guy's been through, and yet still manages to pick himself up and come back fighting every single time.
So over the course of your life, what is an issue with which you have repeatedly struggled?
Grief and loss. I briefly mentioned earlier, I lost my late wife 12 years ago. But I went through a period in life where I thought anybody that got close to me was going to get hurt or die, because it started off in 2004 when I lost my dad in an accident. He fell off a ladder, and he was a painter and decorator, fell off a ladder and died from a complicated fracture at the base of the skull. 12 months later, we lost my wife's dad. Not long after that, a friend of mine got blown up and killed in Afghanistan, very good friend of mine. Then another friend got blown up and killed in Afghanistan. And then the wife died in a rock climbing accident. We'd been married for a long, long time and been together since we were age 15. So we'd been together 18 years. We'd been together longer. I'd lived longer with her than I had without. So that was quite a painful thing to go through. And then my mate got blown up and lost 3 limbs. Another mate got blown up, lost 2 limbs. And I throughout all this, I started believing that it was anybody that got close to me was going to get hurt or die. And I'll be honest, and I don't tell many people this, I turned to alcohol for quite a while, certainly after the wife died. I was drinking heavily for about 10 months. And it was a good group of friends of mine that sort of came into my office and said, "Enough's enough, big lad. It's time to stop boozing." And luckily, they did that before I ended up actually having a problem with alcohol and becoming dependent on it. So, and it was that point when them 3 guys came into my office while I was at work that sort of turned a corner for me.
We need people like that in our lives, don't we?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the good thing for me is that that's enabled me to, help other people now through close personal grief. And I've now mentored a few, probably 6 or 7 people. There's a young soldier that, he'd come from a really difficult background. He was in and out of foster care as a young child. And, he was growing up on a life of crime, sorted himself out, got himself a girlfriend, joined the army, really turned his life around. And then out of the blue, his girlfriend, who he was about to propose to, suddenly died through the night with adult sudden death syndrome. So I kind of took him under my wing. And at the same time, a boss of mine who was senior to me in the army, his wife died after having a liver transplant. So yeah, I've managed to take a number of people under my wing and sort of give them the benefit of my experience in that area, because let's be honest, I've got quite a lot of experience in that area. So
I love that, and it's kind of always the silver lining with the things we go through in life, right? But you mentioned that you drank heavily for a while, but what did you do to work through all that grief and all that trauma? Was there did you get psychotherapy? Did you do anything like that?
No, I'm quite old. Well, I was quite old school, and of the mindset that I'm a I'm a soldier. I can handle anything, and that is, as we know, that's the mindset that causes a lot of people a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the mindset that I had at the time. So I didn't have any counselling or anything. Initially, through that loss of the wife, I threw myself into alcohol and work. So if I wasn't working, I was drinking. If I wasn't drinking, I was working. And then when I stopped drinking, I threw myself into sport, and I started racing triathlons on the Ironman 70.3 circuit. And most of my time was taken up either training or racing triathlons. I've got quite a addictive personality, and if I get into something, I focus 110% of all my efforts on that area. So I raced triathlons for a number of years, and then I suppose I stopped that, and I got back into magic, and then everything went back into my magic performances. I just focused on different things, which ultimately it meant that it took me a much longer to deal with it than had I have addressed the problems and the grief and tackled it head on, because I just hid my feelings and didn't face them. And I'd say it took me probably about 3.5 years to actually come to terms with the loss of my wife.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all process grief differently. And I don't know, when you describe your relationship with her and the span of time, I mean, it seems pretty commensurate, right? I mean, I think it'd probably take me that long too if I were you. But all right, shifting gears here a little bit. In childhood, who was your celebrity crush?
You're probably never going to have heard of this woman, and if you Google her, you'd have to Google a very early image to see why. Because if you Google her name now and you see her, you'll be like, really? It was, and I was only actually reminded of this about 2 weeks ago by my mother. It was Rula Lenska.
RULA?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
She was an actress. Yeah. Well, there you go.
I found her. I'm looking for the young ones. All right. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, you're right. I never had heard of her.
Yeah.
That looks like I see a bikini photo that probably was a pretty, there weren't a lot of bikini photos back then. That's going back a ways, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's just say I joined the army at 16 and I've been doing that for 29 years. So, yeah, I'm quite old.
Yeah. Okay. What historical figure would you most like to meet?
Oh, so I've got two, really. One would have to be Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just, obviously with the military background and that, yeah, Churchill would be one of them. And the other one would be Harry Houdini. Obviously being a magician, I'd love to meet Houdini. Plus I work at Houdini's Magic Bar in, they have 2 sites in Kent, and I work at both of them. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What natural gift or ability would you most like to possess?
Natural gift or ability? That would have to be, I'd like to be able to sing. The one thing I can't do in performance-wise, I do a bit of acting. I do a lot of magic. And when I was doing the pantomimes, we were 5 weeks into rehearsals when I found out that I had to sing. And I had to do 3 solos and a duet in front of a packed theatre every night throughout December. And trust me, I cannot sing. If you hear me sing, it'll make you want to clap your hands and stamp your feet all over my face.
Okay. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement? Do you know what? I've achieved quite a lot in my lifetime with the military career. You know, I was awarded a meritorious service medal last year in the Queen's birthday honours. But I think my greatest achievement was actually this year with the birth of my daughter. I'm 45 and only just had my first child with my partner Laura. We had a little girl, Sophia Ruby. She's only 3 months now, and yeah, she's absolutely beautiful. I know every parent says it about their kids, but you know, she's absolutely beautiful, and you know, I never ever thought that I would have children. So yeah, my greatest achievement is, you know, being, you know, I mean, Laura did most of the work, I'll be honest, but you know, my 30 seconds, you know, was part of her creation. So,
well, congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to chat, my mom was 43 when she had me, and my dad was 48. So, and I don't know a lot of people who had parents that age when they were born. So, you know, food for thought. It's definitely a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, ideally, if, you know, I would have had children in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I think, you know, there are some benefits to being a little bit older. You know, you're more settled, you know yourself more,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can provide a better life, you know, than, or certainly I could provide a better life now than I could have done, you know, 10, 15 years ago.
Well, and you're more at ease, you know, like you don't have all the same neuroses that you do in your 20s, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what quality do you admire most in a person?
Honesty. It's one of the things I always say to my guys at work. You know, when I get a new member of staff in and I interview them when they first come in, I'll always say to them, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what mistakes you make, and if you mess up, you know, just put your hands up. We can sort out nearly all problems unless somebody's died. We can
right.
You know, we can fix things. Just put your hands up and be honest, and I will have your back. But the minute you lie to me, you know, that's it. You've lost my support.
What's something you'd like to learn more about?
Fatherhood.
Yeah.
You know,
well, you're about to, Pete.
Yeah, I'm 3 months in, and I mean, my partner Laura, she has 3 other children of different ages. She's got Lily who's 16, Joe who's 9, and Ella who's 5. So I've kind of, you know, been thrown in at the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
And muddling through, and you know, Laura says, "Oh, you're doing a great job," but you know, sometimes you question yourself whether you're getting it right. And you know, I'm a little bit stricter than Laura, and it's like, you know, am I too strict? Is that because of my military background? You know, do I need to chill out a bit? It's a difficult balance, isn't it?
Welcome to parenthood. That's
you know, especially with the other 3, because you know they're not my children. You know, they've got their own dads. They're all still actively seeing their dads regularly. You know, and you're on that kind of sticky ground. You know, we're not married, so I'm not even a step parent. It's, you know, it can be difficult, but it's also very, very rewarding.
Yeah, and you know, I lived that and underestimated it. You know how difficult it was to be a stepfather. And I thought just because I love them that everything would be fine and blah, 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 you know, but it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. But one of the things I was really intentional about during that time was just to be really clear. I know I'm not your father, but I will always treat you as if you were my own, and just tried to make that really, really clear, you know? And
yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like I say, it's a fine line. It's a fine balance of, you know, getting that right, isn't it? Because they have got their own their own fathers, and in the case of Laura's three, they see their fathers, every week,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a balancing act at times.
Yeah. What do you wish more people knew about you?
It's a difficult question because I'm quite an open book, and those people that know me, know most things because I don't, I don't hide anything. In business terms, I suppose, I'd like more people to know that I'm a magician and how good I am at doing that, because obviously that would lead to more bookings and ultimately more money.
Mm-hmm.
In personal terms, I suppose what I was talking about earlier of me, mentoring people who've gone through grief and close personal loss, because if more people knew, what I'd been through in that area, and that I can then help other people, maybe more people would reach out.
Great. What's your idea of success?
Okay. My idea of success isn't about having loads of money. Obviously, money helps, but my idea of success is being happy. Being able to provide for my family, and being happy and in a stable relationship. You don't need millions and millions of pounds to be happy. I've been to many countries in the world that are not as well off as as you and I are in our respective countries.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of poverty. So yeah, just being happy. I think happiness is a good measurement of success.
All right. Last question. What would you like people to say about you when you're gone?
What would I like people to say about me when I'm gone? Just to not slag me off, I suppose. I don't know. That's a difficult question. That's probably the hardest question. That's probably why you saved that for last, isn't it?
I can see why you would think it's hard, but not everyone does, Will you translate slag you off, what that means? Because that's not American English. That's British English, I think. What's that mean?
So, yeah, it's British slang. So, yeah, just not to speak badly of you.
Okay. I don't know. Like for me, I would want people to say that I made a difference in their lives. Their lives were better because I existed,
Yeah, so, if you've had a positive impact on people's lives, that's it's a great accolade for somebody to say once you've gone. And I suppose, that's something we can all aspire to. But, yeah, I don't know, professional and kind, probably the two key things.
That's a big one for me too. I think that we need more of that, more kindness in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the show. Please take the time to subscribe at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Check out the latest episode of The Path to Authenticity at thepathtooauthenticity.com. You can also find the podcast club on Clubhouse, where you can join the podcast community for access to supplemental content at patreon.com/thepathtooauthenticity.
you.